Thanks for tuning in. You're watching ARIRANG News Break on this Monday, May 16th. I'm Han-daeun in Seoul. Indonesian President Joko Widodo is in Korea for his state visit, and this morning he attended a business forum with Korea's trade minister and about 400 local entrepreneurs. During the forum held at the Lotte Hotel in Seoul, ministers from the two countries highlighted the importance of economic cooperation. President Widodo stressed that economic reforms opened up the Indonesian economy, saying he will focus more on simplifying local regulations to create a more investment-friendly business environment. At today's forum, Korea and Indonesia finalized several MOUs worth roughly $2 billion for projects in solar energy, power plant construction, and more. The Indonesian leader is set to hold summit talks with President Park Geun-hye this afternoon. We'll have more details of the summit in our later newscast. South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will hold a joint missile alarm drill in Hawaii this summer to boost their defense readiness against North Korea's missile threats. The drill is part of the biennial Rim of the Pacific exercise, or RIMPAC, which is the world's largest international naval warfare exercise and is hosted by the U.S. Navy. RIMPAC involves military forces from about 10 Pacific Rim countries, including South Korea, but this will be the first joint naval drill conducted only by the three countries. Seoul's defense ministry says the drill will focus on detecting and tracking possible ballistic missiles from North Korea, but will not involve actually intercepting the projectiles. Military officials say the drill will be executed in accordance with the Information Access Treaty signed back in December 2014, where the three countries agreed to exchange intelligence to better cope with North Korean threats. RIMPAC is scheduled to start sometime between June and August. Lawmakers in the United States have introduced a bill to consider whether North Korea should be redesignated as a state sponsor of terrorism. The bill would permit follow-up investigations into the 2014 cyber attack on Sony Pictures and other cases of hacking into South Korean agencies. Kwon So-ah has the details.
U.S. lawmakers are seeking to examine whether North Korea should be redesignated as a state sponsor of terrorism. The bill, named H.R. 5208, was proposed by U.S. Congressman Ted Poe and submitted by co-sponsor Congressman Brad Sherman last week, and is meant to allow the U.S. administration to hold investigations on North Korea's terror threats and report the details to Congress. 21 cases since 1970 are subject to re-examination. They include North Korea's bombing of a Korean air passenger jet in 1987, which initially put Pyongyang on the list of terrorism sponsors, the cyber attack on Sony Pictures in 2014, as well as more recent alleged hackings into South Korean government institutions. The South Korean government avoided taking a stance on the designation itself, but says it hopes North Korea refrains from further terror acts.
We hope North Korea turns away from terrorism and other attacks for the sake of improving inter-Korean relations and peace in the region.
The United States took North Korea off the list in 2008 as Pyongyang agreed to disclose information about its nuclear weapons stockpile. But voices on a redesignation have been growing as the regime is not abiding by international rules and sanctions when it comes to its nuclear and missile provocations, including its fourth nuclear test earlier this year. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
The OECD has cut Korea's growth outlook for this year to 2.7%, joining an array of institutions slashing the country's forecast down into the 2% range. The downgrade marks a 0.4 percentage point cut from its previous outlook. The organization, which released its survey on Korea on Monday, cited the aging population and slumping exports as risks the Korean economy is facing. It also pointed to the rapid rise in household debt and and the slowing Chinese economy as factors that could further dent the country's growth. The head of the OECD's Korea desk, Randall Jones, adds that Korea has room for more fiscal and monetary stimulus measures to rev up the economy, although such short-term boosts cannot be a cure-all for tackling the low growth trend. The OECD expects Korea to grow 3% next year, also down 0.6 percentage points from its previous outlook. With the market conditions clouding Korean shipyards' futures and a lack of new orders, the nation's three biggest shipbuilders are expected to cut production, and soon. Kim Min-ji has more.
Korea's ailing shipbuilding industry can't seem to catch a break, with its woes likely to continue into the foreseeable future. According to a report by a research institute of the Export and Import Bank of Korea, the volume of new orders worldwide amounted to 2.3 million compensated gross tons, which is the amount of work that is necessary to build a given ship as of the first quarter. That's down over 70% from the same period last year. For Korea, the figure stood at 170,000 CGT, down 94% from the year before. The figure for the whole year is expected to come to 1.6 million CGT, down 85% from last year. In a reflection of the dire situation, the nation's three biggest shipbuilders are set to cut production capacity as part of a larger restructuring effort. According to industry sources, Hyundai Heavy Industries has decided to tentatively close its dockyards, while both Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering and Samsung Heavy Industries are expected to follow suit. Although the dockyards are all fully operational at the moment, the closures are expected to take place once existing orders are complete, starting with the yards deemed the most inefficient. In fact, the restructuring effort for the big three is expected to kick off in full this week. Hyundai Heavy Industries submitted its restructuring plan to its creditors last week. It's accepting voluntary resignations from staff and pushing to sell the assets of smaller subsidiaries. Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering is expected to draw up a rescue plan that includes a cut in workers, wages, and facilities, and could submit it to creditors by the end of May. Samsung Heavy Industries is also slated to hand in a similar rescue plan later this month. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
That does it for this edition of ARIRANG News Break. Thank you for watching. More domestic and global news coming up at 6 p.m. Korea time. Don't go away.